So, welcome to another episode. We have already learnt a lot with Dr. Pradeep, where he said in Miracle they view cancer as metabolic disorder. Here is another continuation of it. So, let's start. Sir, you said something about cancer and sugar balls. Can you just elaborate about it, sir? What is the link between sugar and the cancer, sir?
So if you just look into our body, all of our cells requires energy. So energy is the basic of everything. So we get energy from multiple sources. Like for example, you and me, when we are normal. So let us say we are avoiding carbohydrates for next 10 days. So at that point of time, I start eating chicken, I start eating proteins or fat. Our body can still manage with the protein and fat. It can convert it into glucose and it can start utilizing for the day-to-day activities. Whereas if you look at the cancer cells primary fuel for its function is glucose. So it can take only energy from the glucose. And another one thing which is useful for cancer is the glutamines. So these are the two things which cancer cells basically use for its own function. And even if you want to identify whether your cell is a normal cell or a cancer cell, what we do in general in PET scans, you send something called FDG, which is a functional glucose, which is put inside your vein, and it goes inside the body, and within seconds whichever cells is fastly taking up the glucose dye inside the body, they are called as the hypermetabolic lesions inside the body. How much ever the glucose they take, that says that it is very, very hypermetabolic. So whichever cells eat sugar faster, crave sugars, they are called as cancer cells. And this is giving a cue how we can prevent or reverse cancer as well. Whenever you can cut the fuel for the cancer. So when I told that if you are eating a lot of sugary drinks, usually what happens when a person taking a chemotherapy, let us say in conventionally you take chemotherapy once in 21 days because of the doses. And whenever we ask anybody like, okay, do you have to follow any diet after the chemotherapy? They say eat whatever you want, make yourself more healthy and come for the next cycle. So we go back home, we eat bakery products, we eat rice, we eat whatever fruits are there available in front of us, and we are indirectly, one way we are killing the cancer cells on a day. And next 21 days we are trying and rebuilding by supplying more energy to the cells, it grows inside the body. That's why most of our patients, even after taking chemotherapy or radiation or surgery, they come up with a relapse in next 6 months. Somebody even get in 3 months. Somebody have if their body is very strong, they won't be getting cancer for another 6 years, 7 years, but later they get a secondary inside the body. This is basically because we are missing one link that cancer is a metabolic disease. Cancer is nothing but it feeds on sugar and glutamines, and the more you put carbohydrates, and if you remember in the previous episodes we have spoken about, Indians eat a lot of carbohydrates. 80% of our diet has carbohydrates. And now you can understand from where cancer is coming into the world, why youngsters are getting cancers, and even after taking a chemotherapy, why it is not working well inside the body, because you are completely missing on the self-discipline. You're completely missing on, and you're feeding what the cancer cells are expected to be fed. You're putting glucose in many forms inside the body.
So yes, sir. So it is clear that sugar has a major role in cancer. But does that mean sugar is the only enemy, sir? Does that mean we should avoid the sugar and carbohydrates completely, sir?
So you see, you have to. One of the problem with like cancer, when you come, like when in our experience, whenever the patient come to us, we say that these are the things which you should not be taking. And so our hospital based out in South India. And most of us are rice eaters. We love our rice, so we do not want to get rid of the rice. So there are ways and means we can integrate, or step by step how we can modulate our diet program. Yes, when you are in an active treatment, active diagnosis, obviously you need to follow certain self-discipline. So here in our place we choose the simple carbohydrates versus complex carbohydrates, what we can give. So we choose the lesser enemy. Okay, we go for millets. Okay, again millets, again it is sugar, like compared to rice, it contains a little bit of more husk, more minerals, more vitamins. However, it is also sugar. So what we do, we ask our patients to take 1 spoon of ghee just before every meal. Likewise, 5 spoons of ghee every day before every meals. It masks the sugar spike inside the body. So still, and also when millets are taken in a smaller quantity compared to the rice. So you can attain the satiety faster compared to the rice when you are taking. And one of the myth which is prevalent around us is like fat creates heart attack. So you cannot eat fat or you cannot take oil because fat is protective. But so we voluntarily ask our patients to be on fat. Especially we ask them to drink coconut oil just before their meal, or we ask them to take ghee just before their meal. So this will be reducing the sugar spike inside the body. And also we try and modulate their diet program. So in our hospital, when they stay for 24 days, that is usually what we make them say, stay for various purposes to even inculcate some habits in them. At that point of time, we nicely place their diet program in such a way, if you are not a sedentary person, like you do not have a great physical activity, we try and manage that, take 2 meals, 2 whole meals, and 1 meal you skip and go for complex carb. It can be some vegetables, it can be some fruits, and fruits we never give us juices, but vegetables we can give us juices, or it can be coconut milk. So this is one way of carbohydrate. We are not avoiding carbohydrate. And in the afternoon, yes, we place the food plate in such a way that you have your ghee before you touch your food, and the rice is, or the rice or the millets is very smaller amount in that, and then we have our veggies, or we have our eggs or your chicken or small fishes, and similarly have your food before 7 o'clock and keep your stomach empty for at least 14 hours a day. This is a trick which we use to hack. And obviously when you develop the self-discipline, you know what kind of carbohydrates you should be eating, what kind of carbohydrates you should be avoiding.
That is very clear. So you're saying to prioritize quality over quantity and nutrition with energy rather than simply going for energy. Am I right, sir? Yeah. So with that being said, one more question, sir, which a lot of people have. Is there any link between non-vegetarian and cancer, sir? What is your take on non-vegetarian foods?
So you see, this is very funny, so whatever you eat, idli, dosa, vada, or eat chicken, mutton, only till here it is called chicken, mutton, or idli, dosa, vada. After this, it's all called as micro and macronutrients. It can be either carbohydrates or fat or proteins or vitamins. So if you just look at the non-vegetarian is nothing but protein. Okay. So the way we cook and eat non-vegetarian does matters. For example, I told fat is good, oil is good, but you're frying the oil, you're putting the chicken into it, you're frying it for, let us say, 30 minutes, 20 minutes to make it as black as possible. That is actually a poison. Because when you superheat the oil becomes a poison. But when you just consume the oil, or you just shallow heat your oil is not that poison. And again, coming to the non-vegetarian. So non-vegetarians are decided based on, so if there is a deep-seated gut dysfunction, like as I told earlier, we check the immunoglobulin levels in our patients. If there is a higher amount of IgE production inside your gut, at that point of time for our patient, we say that for some time you just avoid animal-based protein. So that your chicken, everything includes over there. But if the IgE is normal, if the things are working very well and it is only some other deep-seated problem, at that point of time we just ask them to add 1 or 2 pieces of chicken, or you take some small fishes or egg you can go for. So this we will be definitely adding to the diet, because protein is also the building block for the body. And when you are not putting, like usually what happens, why cancer patients lose weight? So after your chemotherapy, you don't feel like eating, or if you're doing a radiation, you do not have salivary glands, or you're not feeling hungry. At that point of time, what we do, we just eat liquid food or whatever we are able to do. So your cancer cells still require sugar. What it does, you're not feeding anything, it starts breaking your proteins from the muscles. So you slowly start losing your protein mass, and that's why people look lean. It's not because that cancer is eating up things, because you are not providing nutrition for even your normal cells. Cancer cells want to survive, so they are the most brilliant cells compared to a normal cell. So they just break down your proteins and converting it into glucose, and they survive inside the body, and eventually we lose that particular patient. So non-vegetarian definitely you can take, but this is not a kind of an open statement. We need to really look into how your metabolism is shaped, and that is what we do in Miracle. We look a person from entire 360-degree angle and prepare a diet program based on the patient's metabolic construct.
So yes, sir. So before taking, I should check whether it suits me or not, rather than simply debating that it is good or not. Am I right, sir? Yeah. So I think that's a relief for meat eaters. And for more interesting facts, stay tuned with us. Thank you.